When India became independent in 1947, its leaders were faced with the enormous task of drafting a constitution that would guide a diverse, complex, and newly liberated nation. Among the many challenges, one of the most pressing was ensuring that every citizen, regardless of religion, caste, gender, or background, would enjoy certain basic rights. The result was the inclusion of fundamental rights in Part 3 of the Constitution of India, which came into force on the 26th of January, 1950. These rights are regarded as the bedrock of Indian democracy and continue to serve as the shield that protects individual liberty against arbitrary action by the state. Fundamental rights are not merely abstract principles. They are enforceable in a court of law. Article 32 of the Constitution, often described by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar as the heart and soul of the Constitution, empowers citizens to directly approach the Supreme Court for the enforcement of these rights. This unique feature highlights the seriousness with which the framers of the Constitution viewed the protection of civil liberties. Rights without remedies would be hollow promises, and therefore the guarantee of judicial enforcement gives these provisions real meaning. The fundamental rights can be broadly grouped into 6 categories. The first is the right to equality, which includes equality before the law, prohibition of discrimination, and equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. This right seeks to eliminate the deep-rooted social inequalities of Indian society and to ensure that no citizen is treated as inferior on the basis of caste, religion, sex, or place of birth. The second category is the right to freedom, which encompasses freedoms essential for individual development and democratic participation. Citizens are guaranteed freedom of speech and expression, freedom of assembly, freedom to form associations, freedom of movement, freedom to reside in any part of the country, and freedom to practice any profession. These rights, however, are not absolute. They may be subject to reasonable restrictions in the interests of sovereignty, security, public order, or morality. The delicate balance between liberty and regulation has been the subject of constant judicial interpretation. The third is the right against exploitation, which prohibits forced labor, human trafficking, and the employment of children in hazardous industries. In a country where exploitation of the vulnerable had historically been widespread, This right signaled a decisive break from oppressive practices and affirmed the dignity of labor. The fourth category, the right to freedom of religion, recognizes the secular character of the Indian state. Citizens are free to profess, practice, and propagate their religion, subject to considerations of public order, health, and morality. At the same time, the Constitution prohibits the state from giving preference to one religion over another, thus maintaining neutrality in matters of faith. The fifth is the cultural and educational rights, which aim to protect the identity of minorities. These rights allow linguistic and religious minorities to preserve their culture and establish educational institutions of their choice. In a nation as diverse as India, such guarantees are crucial for promoting harmony and preventing feelings of marginalization. Finally, the right to constitutional remedies, enshrined in Article 32, allows citizens to seek justice when any of the above rights are violated. The Supreme Court and High Courts are empowered to issue writs such as habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, and quo warranto. This provision transforms rights from mere declarations into living instruments of justice. Over the years, the interpretation of fundamental rights has evolved through landmark judgments of the Supreme Court. For instance, in Kesavananda Bharathi v. State of Kerala 1973, the court held that while Parliament has wide powers to amend the constitution, it cannot alter the basic structure, which includes the guarantee of fundamental rights. Similarly, in Maneka Gandhi v. Union of India 1978, the court expanded the meaning of the right to life and personal liberty under Article 21, stating that it is not confined to mere physical existence but includes the right to live with dignity. In recent times, the court has also recognized the right to privacy as a part of the right to life, reflecting the changing needs of society. In conclusion, the fundamental rights of the Indian Constitution represent the moral and legal foundation of the Republic. They guarantee equality, liberty, and justice, while also acknowledging the need for reasonable restrictions to maintain harmony. They empower citizens, restrain the state, and provide a framework within which democracy thrives. The protection of these rights is not the task of courts alone. It requires the vigilance of citizens, the responsibility of institutions, and the commitment of leaders. As India continues its journey as the world's largest democracy, The fundamental rights will remain the cornerstone of its constitutional order, ensuring that freedom, dignity, and justice are not empty promises but living realities for every citizen.